Reading through the comments, a lot of y'all are mad that I'm not mad. That's just weird. College football is a funny sport, and the internet is a funny thing. People would rather, like, people would rather lose than their team win. It's really weird. Um, no, I'm never happy Georgia loses a game, but this isn't like it was 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know what people expected me to come on here and throw TVs around and jump out of the window or whatever. I mean, the reality is, am I happy Georgia's season is over? No, I'd much rather be in the playoffs than not. I think anybody, any college football fan, would feel the same way. Am I mad? Am I devastated? Am I heartbroken or any of that? No. I've been a Georgia fan for a long time. I have watched Georgia suffer devastating loss after devastating loss for the majority of my life. The last 2 years have been unbelievable. And it couldn't last forever. You're never going to win every single game you play. And the reality for Georgia is they lost a game they couldn't lose. Had they lost earlier in the season instead of this one, I mean, there's a million what ifs, but the reality is they lost. Georgia had a chance to make the playoffs. They had one game and they lost it, right? You win and you're in, you lose and you're out. I mean, that's just the way it goes. In college football, a sport with 130 plus teams, just not everybody's going to get in. That's just the way it is. And Georgia had an opportunity yesterday to earn their way into the playoff, and they came up short. And that sucks. I hate it for Georgia. I hate it for me. I hate it for all the Georgia fans. I'd love to see Georgia in another college football playoff. And if it somehow, if you thinking I'm mad somehow makes you feel better as a Florida fan or an LSU fan, so be it. Lord knows y'all need something to feel good about because you're in the fucking garbage can. Florida's not playing in any postseason game at all. LSU's not even good enough to get to a New Year's Six game. But anyway, so no, I'm not happy Georgia lost, but I'm not irate. I didn't stomp around. I'm not breaking shit. Georgia's been on an amazing run. It was never going to last forever. I hate that it ended the way it did. But the only thing you can do, well, it's not the only thing you can do. What you're supposed to do when your team loses is you just come on, you accept the loss, you eat your crow, you congratulate the winning team, and you get up and you go on about your life. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'll be doing it for another 10 years. This won't be the last time I see Georgia lose a game. I can promise you that. But no, I'm not mad. I'm excited for the bowl season that's coming up. I'm excited for the New Year's Six games, and I'm obviously excited to watch the college football playoffs. I've said this a million times. I'll say it a million more. Georgia's my favorite team, but I'm a college football fan. I am not any less excited about the college football playoffs just because Georgia's not in it. Georgia's only made 3 college football playoffs out of the, 9 or 10 that we've had. Georgia made it in 17, they made it in 21, and they made it in 22. I've watched a lot of college football playoffs that didn't involve Georgia. This will be another one. And we're going to talk some about the playoff teams. But, of course, this is the only Sunday morning recap video that actually matters. The Your Season is Over video. And this is a point and laugh video. So this is what we're going to do. Now, there's not nearly as many teams to point and laugh at today as there is on a normal Sunday Your Season is Over video because most of the teams weren't good enough to play yesterday, like Florida, like LSU, like Tennessee, like South Carolina, like Auburn, like Ohio State, like Southern Cal. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You had to be pretty good to lose yesterday. You had to be pretty good to lose yesterday. And we've got some teams that managed to do just that, to lose. And, of course, their season is over. We're going to start with a team that did not lose, and I will not be pointing and laughing at Florida State. I thought about it because Florida State fans have been absolutely delusional. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way. I'll redo the order of the helmets later. I'm just going to put them back wherever for now. I'll redo the top 10 later. Florida State fans were absolutely delusional, crazy, out of their mind, and borderline Asperger's level retarded over about the last month of the season. Here's the facts of the matter. Florida State was not one of the best 4 teams in the country with Jordan Travis. They just weren't. Now, they won all their games, and I hate that Jordan Travis got hurt, and I hate that Florida State got left out of the playoff. I would be, you want to talk about why I'm not mad or whatever. if I was a Florida State fan, I would be breaking all these TVs. I would be jumping out of that window. I would be stomping around and pouting and moaning and screaming at the top of my fucking lungs. I would be absolutely irate because Florida State did everything they could possibly do. They could not have done more. And the playoff committee looked at them and said, sorry, you're not good enough. And I think that's ridiculous. I also think it would have been equally ridiculous to leave Alabama out of the playoffs. This just highlights the problem of the 4-team playoff that has existed from the beginning. Well, there was a lot of problems. One, no clear-cut guidelines, scenarios, or objectives. You can't clearly tell a team at the beginning of the year, this is what you have to do to make the playoffs. College football is the only sport in the world that operates that way. Every other sport in the world, you know before you play one game exactly what you have to do to make the playoffs. Whether you're talking about the NFL, the NBA, whatever it is, you know exactly what you have to do. You have a division, you have to either win that or second. If you have a wild card or you make the playoffs or whatever the case, and it's based off of wins and losses, and we all know college football is just not that way. So I truly feel bad for the Florida State as a school, Florida State players, the Florida State fans. I feel terrible. And if I was in y'all's position, I would be as mad or more mad than the majority of you are. So I completely get it. And I'm not going to come on here and clown Florida State fans because Florida State got left out of the playoff and they're heartbroken and pointing. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. Two things are true here. Y'all were out of your mind and delusional. Florida State was never one of the best 4 teams, even with Jordan Travis. That's how I believe. I've been saying for a month, if Florida State makes the playoffs, they'll get blown out in the first round no matter who they play. It's unfortunate that Jordan Travis went down, but Jordan Travis did go down. I disagree with the playoff committee using that as a bulletin point as to why they kept Florida State out. I think that sets a terrible example, just an absolutely terrible example. If you're an Alabama fan or a Texas fan, or a Michigan fan, or a Washington fan. Y'all are in the playoffs. And again, we're going to talk about all those teams at the end of the video. But if you're an Alabama fan, and you beat Georgia yesterday, the number 1 team in the country, and you finished 12-1 with an SEC title, but Jalen Milroe gets hurt in the last 5 minutes of the game, blows his knee out in the last 5 minutes of the game. You still go on to win. You're still 12-1. You still beat the number 1 team. You still broke the 29-game winning streak. You still won the SEC. But the playoff committee looks at you and says, well, we would put you in, but Jalen Milroe got hurt. You'd be acting the same way Florida State fans are acting today. You'd be absolutely beside yourself. Texas, what if Quinn Ewers would have got hurt at the end of the game? Michigan, what if J.J. McCarthy or Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards or whatever goes down? Washington, what if you lose Michael Penix in the last 5 minutes against Oregon? That cancels out everything you did for the entirety of the season. And the playoff committee is going to look at you and say, well, you're 13-0. You won your conference. You literally beat everybody you played. But because you have a player that's hurt, we're not going to put you in. So I completely understand the frustration on the part of the Florida State fans. But who do you take out to put Florida State in? I know Alabama's the popular answer. The reality is, going back to last year with the TCU thing, right? To a person, almost every single college football fan I know said, I don't want TCU in. They're not one of the best 4. I don't want them in. Okay, well, then why don't you want Alabama in? They're clearly one of the best 4 teams. Here's the problem with best 4. And I've been saying this for a long time. There's no such thing as the best 4 teams. There's my opinion of what the best 4 teams is. There's your opinion of what the best 4 teams is. There's your neighbor's opinion of what the best 4 teams is. Maybe some of those opinions align, but the majority of people are going to have a different opinion of what the quote-unquote best 4 teams are. That's why no other sport on planet Earth picks their postseason that way. I'm not saying we should throw everything out in college football and go to a strictly record-based system. I'm just saying these are the types of results you're going to get in terms of picking your postseason when these are the criteria that you use. I'll raise my hand right now and say I think Georgia's one of the best 4 teams in the country. I do. Do I think Georgia deserves to be in the playoffs? No, I don't. Georgia had a chance to get into the playoffs yesterday and they lost. I don't think Georgia deserves to be in. But don't tell me like you're fully on board with Alabama getting in because you believe the best four teams should get in and Alabama's one of the best four teams. Okay, well, Georgia's one of the best four teams. Should they be in? You're going to tell, you know what you're going to tell me? You're going to say, no, they shouldn't be in. They lost yesterday. I agree. They shouldn't be in because they lost yesterday. Doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you're one of the best four teams. I think that's a fantasy pipe dream that people have somehow, that phrase never should have been invented when it comes to college football, best four. I think the committee probably did what was best for college football. The true reality is, at least in my opinion, Florida State would have got absolutely destroyed by any of the teams here and about 10 other teams that aren't here. I don't think Florida State was a dominant team with Jordan Travis, and they were absolutely abysmal offensively without him. They had like 60 or 70 yards passing yesterday. They struggled to score on Louisville. They barely beat Louisville, the same Louisville team that got beat by like the 10th best SEC team, Kentucky. So I don't really know I'm not on either side is what I'm trying to say. I'm not on Florida State's side in thinking that Alabama shouldn't be in. I'm also not necessarily on Alabama's side and thinking that Florida State shouldn't be in. I think that depending on how you look at the playoffs and what criteria you choose to use, you can make completely valid arguments to put Alabama or Florida State, either one, in. I've heard arguments on why Texas shouldn't get in. I've heard arguments on why Washington shouldn't get in. I've heard arguments on why Michigan shouldn't get in with the cheating thing. So my point, I guess, is that there's a million different opinions when it comes to best four or whatever, which is why most sports on planet Earth don't bother with that silliness. They take all the teams with the best records. That's how sports have always determined who gets into a postseason. A team's record. Only college football sits around and looks at, well, you beat this team, but you lost to that team, but you did lose to them a long time ago, and now this player's hurt, but this player's not. Whereas this team got this guy back from injury. It's just so convoluted. We're going to a 12-team playoff next year. A lot of people have been against playoff expansion. I've been in favor of playoff expansion since the day they announced it. Now, my reasonings are a little different than some other people's. I'm in favor of 12-team playoff expansion, not because I necessarily think we need more than 4 teams into a playoff. I want more great football games. Can you imagine if we had a 12-team playoff this year, you'd get great games. You'd have things like, Georgia versus maybe an Oregon. And it would be at a campus or whatever. Like, I'm in favor of expansion because I'm excited to watch playoff games on college campuses at Christmas time. Instead of spending the next 2 or 3 weeks watching Iowa versus Clemson in some kind of Pop-Tart bowl that no one cares about, we could be watching actual playoff games involving top 12 teams played on college campuses. And I just think that's going to be great. That's why I've been in favor or have no problem with going to the 12-team playoff. But the majority of people who support the 12-team playoff support it because of what is happening right now. It was just a matter of time. We've actually been pretty lucky during the playoff era that something like this hasn't really happened before. Most of the arguments in the college football playoff area between who should be 4 and who should be 5 have involved teams with the same record and really the same similar resumes, and you're just picking who you think is the better team, right? Oklahoma gets in 2018 instead of Georgia. It was Oklahoma 4, Georgia 5. Or was that might have been 19. It doesn't matter. Notre Dame got in one year and it was argument over 4 and 5. But it was nothing like, well, we've never had a Power 5 conference champion go undefeated, win their conference, be sitting there at 13-0. Keep in mind, Florida State was in the top 4 yesterday. They won yesterday. They fell out. It's just never had to happen before. So most people who have been in favor for a 12-team expansion is because of the scenario that's happening right now. Right? How do you differentiate between a Florida State and an Alabama? Do you just guess which team you think is better? Well, that's clearly what they did. And they're guessing that Alabama is better than Florida State. So they're just arbitrarily putting Alabama in. Now, I happen to agree with that thought that Alabama is better than Florida State. I agree with that 100%. But it is an opinion, and it's an unprovable one. Now, 99 people out of 100 might think Alabama is better than Florida State. It's still an opinion. and an unprovable one because we're never going to see them play. So the 12-team playoff will fix a lot of this. A lot of these teams are going to end up, getting in. So we'll see. But a lot of controversy now. I feel bad for Florida State. I feel bad for their fans. That's true. But you also, y'all were the Tennessee fans of college football this year. Y'all were so delusional. Y'all were so delusional. Both things are true. Okay? You were delusional during the month of November about how good you were when you weren't really that good. And it's also true that you should be upset for being left out. But if I was Alabama, I'd be just as upset if they left Alabama out. So there is no right answer, I don't think. Again, people are going to have opinions on it. The only answer that's wrong is the people that say, well, of course they put Alabama in. It's SEC bias. You people are so fucking retarded with your SEC bias shit, you can't see straight. What it is you're just mad that the SEC has won however many national championships in the last 20 years, whatever it is, 15 out of the last 20, 16 out of the last 20, whatever it is. You just can't beat the SEC. That's what makes you mad. So you invent this fake SEC bias. The director of the playoff committee is the athletic director for NC State. The Boo Corrigan or whatever his name is, the guy that's in charge of the playoff committee is the athletic director at NC State. An ACC team. Florida State is in the ACC. The athletic director from Kansas State, the athletic director from Nevada, the athletic director from Michigan. Michigan is on this is who's on the playoff committee. If you scream Alabama's only in because the playoff committee has SEC bias, you are accusing the athletic director of NC State, the athletic director of Michigan, the athletic director of Nevada, the athletic director of, there's 8 or 9 of them spread across the country. There's one SEC athletic director on, is it the athletic director of Kentucky? Yeah. The athletic director of Kentucky is the only SEC person on the committee out of the 12 that are on there, whatever it is. You're accusing these athletic directors all over the country of secretly propping up the SEC. It's the most retarded argument. Look, you can disagree. You can think Alabama doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. And maybe you're right. But the whole, well, of course they put Bama in, the committee just propping up the SEC. Why in the absolute fuck would the athletic directors from places like North Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, Kansas State, Navy, the athletic director from Navy, why are these people? So you're telling me that these people are all secretly members of some cabal whose sole purpose is to prop up the SEC. I wish you could see how retarded you sound to us normal folk when you talk like that. But anyway, I don't know what else to say about the Florida State Alabama 4 versus 5 thing that hasn't already been said. So let's just move on. Louisville lost. Louisville's season. Look, Louisville had a good season. They bring in Jeff Brom, okay? Comes down from Purdue. He's a Louisville guy. He's a Louisville man. Woo. Yeah, I know. Louisville was never that good. Now, luckily for Louisville, you don't have to be that good to be really good in the ACC. The ACC is a garbage can league. It's poverty level. It's horrific. Georgia Tech is 4th in the ACC standings, or 5th, whatever it is. It's just, it's so, the ACC was so bad this year. They had by far the most group of 5 losses of any conference. And they're going to run around and they're going to say, well, the ACC was 6-4, whatever it was against the SEC. Just go look at the matchups. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is go look at the matchup. If there's anybody on planet Earth who can say with a straight face that they think the ACC in 2023 was a better football league than the SEC, then you are the most football ignorant person on the planet. Not only was the ACC not as good as the SEC this year, the ACC wasn't as good as the Big Ten. They weren't as good as the Pac-12. They weren't as good as the Big 12. It was the worst Power 5 conference in the country. And if Florida State really wants to settle their differences, then I think what they should do is play an undefeated Liberty in a bowl game, and the winner can declare themselves Group of 5 champions, because that's basically what the ACC was in 2023. A Group of 5 conference. It was horrific, Jack. None of that changes what I said earlier about Florida State. I still understand the frustration from Florida State being left out. This is a separate We're on to the next point here. The ACC is a fucking garbage can. That Louisville Florida State game was like watching Iowa play Iowa. It was horrific. That is some of the worst football I think I've ever seen. And that was the two best teams the ACC has to offer. Absolutely horrific. Oklahoma State was the, what do you call it? The sacrificial lamb yesterday. Texas got wind somehow that they were on the verge of being left out of the playoff, or they must have thought maybe they were on the verge of being left out of the playoff. So they devised a plan. That plan was, we're going to show up in the Big 12 title game, and we're going to beat the absolute soul and will to live out of whoever they send there. And that whoever, unfortunately for Oklahoma State, happened to be Oklahoma State. I've watched a lot of football this season. The way Texas yesterday, that's one of the best teams I've seen on a field all year long, period. They looked amazing. Oklahoma State's not any good. They're the second best team in the Big 12. Louisville's not any good either, but you play who they send there. It's not about who they played. It's about how they looked. Louisville's not any good. Florida State looked like complete shit against them. Okay, so Oklahoma State's not any good. What'd Texas do? This looked like the 1985 Bears defense for Texas, the 2000 St. Louis Rams offense for Texas against Louisville. That's what it looked like. They went up and down. The Fish scored 40-something points in the first half. Quinn Ewers broke Big 12 championship game record. Texas was the best team I saw play this weekend. That doesn't mean they're winning a national title. Doesn't even mean I'm going to pick them to win the national title. Doesn't even mean I'm going to pick them to win the playoff game. But they were the best team I saw play this weekend. They absolutely annihilated Oklahoma State. And that Ollie Gordon or whatever his name, he played. Now, was he 100%? Probably not. But guess what? I don't know why I keep having to remind people of this. It's December. We've been playing football for 13, 14 weeks. There are a lot of people that aren't 100%. Okay? Look, you're either healthy, injured, or hurt. Those are the three things that you can be. If you're healthy, you play. If you're injured, you don't. If you're hurt, you do. Hurt people play all the time. Every day. There ain't a college football game that's ever been played that didn't involve a hurt person playing. It happens all the time. All the time. It's not an excuse for losing. It is what it is. Football. Everybody does it. Okay. So yeah, you had Ollie Gordon. I know he wasn't 100%. Texas was the best team I saw play this weekend. They absolutely destroyed Oklahoma State. Oregon, boy, Oregon. Y'all were so close. So close. Should have beat Washington the first time. Can't say that this time. You can't say that this time. This time you got outplayed. The first time you got outcoached. This time you got outplayed. The better team won. This isn't a fluke. I watched Oregon and Washington play the first team and I go, I don't know. I still think Oregon's better. I think Oregon would beat them if they played again. Well, they didn't. Washington beat them for the second time. And there's nothing flukish about it. Washington was the better team. Those are two good teams. Washington versus Oregon was the closest thing we saw this weekend to Georgia, Alabama. I'm not saying that, those are the four best teams. That's not what I mean. I mean, as far as competitive games, close games, hard-fought games, where you're watching the game going, man, both of these teams are pretty good. Oregon and Washington, both pretty good. Georgia and Bama, both pretty good. Michigan and Iowa, one good team, one garbage can. Louisville and Florida State, two trash cans. And Texas and Oklahoma State, huge mismatch. But that Oregon-Washington game was a great game. And unlike the first go-round, I do think the better team won this time. Washington outplayed them. Great game. Hats off to Oregon. I thought they had another great season. Look, Dan Lanning's a year two head coach. He's way ahead of a lot of other year two head coaches. Now, the road's about to get a little tougher for Dan Lanning and Oregon moving to the Big Ten next year. And I know Oregon fans are extremely disappointed because they were counting their chickens. They thought they were on the way to the playoffs. They were convinced they were beating Washington. I was too. Hell, Vegas was too. Vegas had them as a 9-point favorite. Didn't work out. Got beat by Washington. Season's over. On top of that, do you really have to play Liberty in the bowl game? Wow. Good luck getting excited about that one. Fucking Sunday school. That's what Liberty is. It's a goddamn Sunday school. Holy shit. Look at this. Iowa. fuck, can't score. I'd love to see Iowa versus Florida State. I would. I really would. But we're not going to see that. I forget who they matched Florida State up with in the bowl game. Can anybody remember? Fuck. Who they matched Florida State up with in the bowl game? I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, type. Hey, yeah. Colorado didn't play yesterday, but they're still fucking losers. Ah, damn. Recruits decommitting, players leaving, coaches leaving. Some coaches have left. Some coaches have got fired. They've lost. They had 2 quarterback commits. They had one for the 24 class, which is one that's about to sign now. They had another quarterback commit already for the 25 class. In the last week, both of them have decommitted. Both of them. They're back down to like 70th in the recruiting rankings for this year, whatever it is. And I know, transfer portal. Good luck getting 5, 6, 7 elite offensive linemen out of the transfer portal. That's the dumbest plan. Look, the transfer portal can work in spots. You know, the transfer portal is like mighty putty, okay? It's to fix a hole. You can't build a whole fucking boat out of it. Try building a boat out of mighty putty, you fucking idiot. You can't do it. You can plug holes with it. You can't build a boat out of it. You're not building a team from the transfer. It's never going to happen, Dion. It's never going to happen. You know how many good offensive linemen you have to sustain yourself over the course of a season? 6 or 7 at a minimum. At a minimum. You might get 1 or 2 out of the portal. You might get 1 or 2. We already know the rest of your offensive line is garbage because you told us it was garbage. Dion, you told us you need all new offensive linemen. You can't recruit any. You're barely even trying to recruit any. You want to get them from the portal. There are not a lot of high-end offensive linemen in the portal. There's going to be a handful. There might be 5, 6, 7, 8 high-end offensive linemen in the portal. They're not all going to Colorado. You might get 1 or 2. Your offensive line is going to be fucking horrendous next year. Facts. You are not a coach. Okay? You're not a coach. You're a team mom with a gold whistle. That's what you are. Someone has given you a clipboard and a golden whistle, and you're the team. You're following Shador around. 1 more year at Colorado, I guess, is it for you, Dion. I put approximately a 0% chance on Dion staying at Colorado post Shador Sanders. He's already convinced Shador Sanders to come back next year for no reason. Shador Sanders should go pro immediately. Get yourself behind a real offensive line, son. Your daddy's not providing you one. And he's not going to provide you one. He's going to continue to run Colorado in whatever way suits Shador in terms of stats and numbers. That's it. He's going to have you dropping back with 5 and 7 step drops behind no offensive line at all for another 12 games next year. Get out, Shador. You're a grown man. You don't have to do what he says anymore. But no, Dion's going to pistol whip him and make him stay in college for no reason for another year. He's going to get destroyed again. Feel bad for Shador. You know who else I feel bad for? Me. Feel bad for me. Nah, nobody feels bad for Georgia fans. Like I said earlier, Georgia's been on a remarkable run, 29 straight wins, 42 out of their last 44, back-to-back national titles. During the last 3 years, Georgia has beaten the following teams: Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Oregon, Ohio State, Tennessee when they were ranked number 1, Ole Miss when they were ranked in the top 10, Mizzou when they were. They've just beaten a who's who of college football in the last 3 years. It wasn't going to last forever, and it came to an end yesterday. Georgia shit the bed. What else can you say? The frustrating part is Alabama didn't play great. And I've heard Alabama fans say the same thing. And Georgia still lost. That's bad on Georgia. That's bad on Georgia. It's one thing if Alabama comes out and they just hit it out of the park. Everything's clicking. They play their best game, that kind of thing, and you come up short. That's not what happened. Bama did not play their best game yesterday. Jalen Mildew was terrible outside of 2 drives in that game. A 90-yard touchdown drive in the first half, and then what I think was the biggest drive of the game in the second half. Georgia had regained all the momentum. Alabama in the third quarter offensively couldn't do shit. They were 3 and out. Georgia had scored, and then Alabama comes out. Georgia scored to get within 3. We kick off. Alabama gets the ball, and it felt like Georgia was about to take that game over. It was the very end of the third quarter, start of the fourth quarter. Alabama had like 25 yards total offense in the third quarter up to that point. It's the end of the third, beginning of the fourth. Jalen Milroe comes out, and takes Alabama right down the field and scores. 5 or 6 completions on that one drive alone to Isaiah Bond. And to me, that was like the turning point of the game. So credit to Jalen Milroe for that. When it mattered the most, Jalen Mildew got them down the field. Georgia punts, pins them back inside the 10-yard line in the first half. 92-yard touchdown drive for Alabama. Second half, after going 3 and out like 3 or 4 times in a row, touchdown drive where he completed 5 or 6 passes. Several of them to Isaiah Bond and another touchdown drive. But overall, he played terrible. He didn't run the ball great. His throws are horrendous. Look, Alabama, it's not you can win a national title and not have a great quarterback. Believe me, Georgia did it twice, okay? Georgia did it twice. Stetson Bennett's not very good. He was never very good. He was a product of what was around him. So the idea that I don't think Jalen Mildew is any good doesn't mean you can or can't win a playoff game or win a national title, but Jalen Mildew's not any good. He's not. I'm sorry. And he didn't do anything yesterday to change my mind or anybody else's mind. He's not any good. You don't have to have the best quarterback on the field to win a game. And Georgia has proved that over the last 2 years with Stetson Bennett. But Jalen Mildew's not any good. But Georgia lost this game and Bama won it. It's not the referees. It's not whatever other excuses anybody else might be using. You already know me. I don't make excuses. Georgia missed a field goal. Look, Georgia lost by 3. They missed a field goal in the first half. Not only did they miss a field goal, they lined up for a 45-yarder, false start. Backs them up. Now you're looking at a 50-yarder. Guy misses it. Guy hasn't missed a kick since week 2. Misses the kick. That's 3 points Georgia didn't get. Second half, we talked about the third quarter where Georgia was just shutting Alabama down, drive after drive after drive. Alabama couldn't do anything, right? Georgia gets the ball on their own 20-yard line. They try to run a jet sweep. They fumble. Alabama falls on it on like the 18-yard line. You're giving Alabama free points during a point in the game where they're not doing anything at all offensively. What happened when we fumbled and Alabama came out and got the ball? What happened? They lost 2 yards on that drive. That's what happened. They started at 1st and 10. They ended up kicking a field goal on 4th and 12. That's a 6-point swing. Georgia shot themselves in the foot. Georgia made mistakes. Alabama didn't. Mildew didn't turn the ball over. Alabama didn't miss a bunch of kicks. Alabama didn't make stupid turnovers in their own red zone. Georgia did that to Georgia. The referees didn't do that to Georgia. Injured players didn't do that to Georgia. Georgia lost this game and Bama won it. Bama was the better team yesterday. Bama dominated both lines. They pushed Georgia around like Georgia's on roller skates. Georgia's defensive line got, if you want to look at one position group yesterday to kind of point the finger at, it's Georgia's defensive front. Georgia's defensive front got big boyed and bullied and pushed around and stuffed in a locker, whatever you want to call it, by Alabama. Georgia's defensive line got dominated yesterday. The offensive line played okay at times. They played okay in pass protection. The running, blocking, non-existent. Non-existent. Georgia couldn't run the ball. Carson Beck, I don't think Carson Beck had a terrible game, but he didn't have a great game either. He probably should have had two interceptions. Twice he threw it right to Alabama defensive backs, and we got lucky and they dropped it. Now, Mildew did the same thing. Mildew threw 2 passes that Georgia should have intercepted, and we didn't. So that kind of happens over the course of a game or a course of a season. But Carson Beck didn't play great. Georgia couldn't run the ball. Defensively, they got annihilated at the line of scrimmage. And you're just not going to win those games that way. You're not going to win. You let Alabama come out and push you around. Doesn't matter. Oh, we'd beat them if we played again. Oh, they'd be favored over Alabama. Doesn't matter. You don't get that opportunity this time. Your opportunity was yesterday, and you blew it. It's that damn simple. Doesn't matter whether you lost by 3, 33, or 133. This season in college football, when you've got this many undefeated teams and this many one-loss teams that win their conference championship games, you can't sneak in with a conference championship game loss. It was never in the car. It was never going to happen. You can be mad about it. The only legitimate argument anybody can make to be mad when it comes to Georgia, if you're one of the people who has constantly screamed year after year that the playoffs should be the 4 best teams, then you can make an argument that Georgia should be in. Now, I disagree. I don't think the playoffs should be the 4 best teams, and the reason is you can't prove Georgia's one of the 4 best teams, just like you can't prove Washington's one of the best 4, or Texas, or Bama, or Michigan, or Florida State, or there's no way to prove that. It's purely arbitrary and subjective, so I don't buy into any of that. But if you're one of the people who constantly screams that it should be the best 4 teams, then maybe you have a leg to stand on saying you think Georgia should be in. I think it's possible Georgia's one of the best 4 teams. It's possible that the best 4 teams are Georgia, Bama, Michigan, and Ohio State. That's possible, but Ohio State's not in either. So, who's the best 4? I don't know. But one of these 4 is winning the national title. That I do know. Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. That's it for the year. Season is over, teams. Shout out to the college football playoff and that amazing helmet. Let's talk about the playoff matchups briefly, because we got 30 days to discuss these playoff matchups. Actually, before we get to the playoff matchups, let's do this. The We're Back rankings. Pretty clear, Texas at the top of those, because they, in fact, are back. The whole point of the We're Back rankings is you got to be, if you don't know what I'm talking about, every week into Your Season is Over video, we take 4 teams, Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame, and Miami. These are the 4 teams whose fan bases have been running around forever screaming they're back, yet they never are. None of those teams have even won a conference title anytime in the last 10 years. Texas last won it in 2009, Tennessee in 1998, Miami in 2001 or 2002. Notre Dame never won a conference title. And you want to talk about national titles, you got to go back even further than that. Yet those 4 fan bases run around the internet, particularly in the offseason, screaming that they're back and they're going 100-0 constantly. And none of them ever do until now. Texas, you won your conference. You are actually back now. That means 2 things. It means you're going to finish the season ranked number 1 in Uncle Lou's We're Back rankings. Congratulations. Number 2, you're no longer in the We're Back rankings because you're actually back now. We have to find a 4th team to add to the We're Back rankings. But here's the final rankings for the We're Back for this year. Texas 1. I'm going to put Notre Dame at 2. I'm going to put Miami at 3 and Tennessee at 4. I think Tennessee had the most disappointing season of the 4. Texas is now officially out of the We're Back rankings going forward for next year. We need to find a 4th team to take their place. Here's the qualifications to qualify for the We're Back rankings. Being bad is not enough. A lot of people have said Nebraska. There aren't any Nebraska fans running around the internet constantly claiming they're back. That's a big part of it here. It's got to be a team that has not won a conference or a national title in at least a decade. At least. And the longer, the better. But also, it has to be a team that fits that category, but also has a significant fan presence on the internet who runs around always saying they're back. So, Florida is a possibility. Let me know y'all's ideas, and then we'll figure. We've got all off season to figure this out. Who we want to replace Texas with in the We're Back rankings for next year, but Florida would be an obvious possibility. They haven't won the SEC in 15 years. They haven't won the SEC in 15 years or a national title, so they would qualify. It's been over 10 years. Like I said, it's got to be somebody with significant presence on the internet. Auburn won the SEC in 20. When did Auburn win the SEC last? Maybe it has been a while for the barn. Anyway, let me know your ideas on who you want to replace Texas, and we've got the course of the offseason to figure out. But Miami, Texas, and Tennessee. Miami, Tennessee, and Notre Dame. Y'all are staying on the We're Back rankings list for yet another season because you're still not back. And none of you are close to being back either. I know that hurts your feelings, but none of you are even close to being back. What a shame. What a shame that is. Heisman, I think it's probably Jaden Daniels. I think a lot of people are confused on the Heisman voting. A lot of people were saying, well, now that since Oregon lost, Bo Nix is out, not winning the Heisman. Most of the Heisman votes were cast before this weekend. Heisman voting started last weekend. And about 90%, 90+% of Heisman voters send their votes in before the conference championship games are played. So I don't think Bo Nix hurt his Heisman chances in the conference championship game, and I don't think Michael Penix helped his chances in the conference title game. I think the decisions were primarily made before the conference championship games, and I think Jaden Daniels from LSU will win the Heisman. I think Bo Nix will come in second. I think Michael Penix will come in third. I think it's pretty irrelevant after that, but maybe Marvin Harrison in the 4 or the 5 spot, maybe a Carson Beck in the 4 or the 5 spot. Quinn Ewers, we could go on down the list. To me, it's a 2-man race between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. And I think Jaden Daniels probably ends up winning the Heisman. We'll find out here. We'll find out here in a week or so. What else? I'm not going to do playoff predictions or championship predictions today. Like I said, we've got 30 days leading up to the playoff games. There will be plenty of content right here on this channel about the playoff games, all the bowl games, the New Year's Six games, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to stream a ton of the bowl games over the next 30 days, including the New Year's Six games, the playoff games, and the national championship game. But we're going to stream a lot of the lower level games too. Still going to be doing the call-in shows every Tuesday and Thursday night. There will not be a Your Season is Over video now until probably, maybe I'll do two. Like one halfway through the bowl season or towards the end of the bowl season, and then another one after the national title game. We'll figure that out with the Your Season is Over. We'll figure that out with the Your Season is Over deal. What else do we need to do or talk about? Is that it? Is that it? Texas versus Washington in the Sugar Bowl. Probably be more Texas fans there just for travel reasons. Alabama versus Michigan in the Rose Bowl. What are y'all's early thoughts on the game? I think both of these are going to be good games, actually. We get blowouts. If you go back and look over the course of history in the college football playoff, way over 50% of the first round playoff games have been blowouts. I don't think we're going to get any blowouts here. I think Michigan versus Alabama will be a low-scoring defensive struggle. I think there's going to be a lot of running the ball in that game. And Texas and Washington, I think, will be the opposite. I think it's going to be an air show. I think Quinn Ewers and those wide receivers are going to try to take advantage of the Washington defensive backs. And I think Washington will do the same thing. Texas has a young secondary, a couple of freshmen back there, two really, really good passers of the football with Quinn Ewers and Michael Penix in the Texas-Washington game. Two big dominant lines of scrimmage, kind of an old school matchup in the Alabama-Michigan game. I think they're good matchups. I'm excited to watch them. It's going to be an entertaining college football playoff. Once we all sort of get over the argument phase involving Florida State and we really start to look at these games we're going to get in the playoffs, I think you're going to find that these are some exciting games here, and I'm expecting them to be pretty good. So basically, here's basically how it works at this point. You got these four teams in the playoffs, and you got all these teams right here. Your season is over. All of these teams, you're not in the playoffs, basically how it works. That's basically how it works. All right, I guess that's going to wrap it up for the Your Season is Over here. I don't think we missed anything. I don't think we missed anything. I'm looking forward to the next month and a half here. Lots and lots of videos coming up here during the holiday season, talking about lots of these bowl games. Plus, we've got coaching hires, coaching fires. The transfer portal is on fire. Early signing day is in, 10 days? December 20th, I think, is early signing day. There's a lot going on in the world of college football right now, above and beyond the bowl games that we're all about to watch, including the New Year's Six, the playoffs, and the national championship. Playoff games on New Year's Day this year, national championship on January 8th. That's the schedule there. So it's going to be a busy month for college football. Plus, you've got Christmas thrown in there too. Merry Christmas and happy holidays in that. And that's going to do it. This is it. Your Season is Over video, championship weekend edition. Georgia on the Your Season is Over video for the first time in its last 30 games. They finally make it onto the Your Season is Over. And man, people are mad that Uncle Lou ain't mad. Have a great day.